What's up guys, Tenacious here, and welcome back to another Fallout 76 build guide. Today, I've got another cool as fuck melee build for y'all. Ever since I unlocked this Samurai Power Armour skin in the last scoreboard, I've actually had the idea for this build. And although it'll never be as OP as with lots of other melee weapons, it's just such a sick fun build to use. Let's meet the Bloodied SamurEye. Let's go. So before we jump right in guys, I just want to emphasise how close we are to that 500 sub milestone. So if you're new here, welcome to this crazy Scotsman's channel, and please consider subscribing. I do drop regular Fallout 76 videos, from PvP to build guides, farming guides and other weird and wonderful content. So if this is what you're into, then bash that like button and beam that subscribe right now, as it will help the channel and me massively, and you can keep up to date with any new content that I drop. That would be greatly appreciated. Also guys, as always, I'll leave timestamps in the description for easy navigation. Moving on. So the build itself is a spin-off from my Juggernaut unarmed power armour build, but instead of a bloodied unarmed build, this is a bloodied melee build. So this will boast some significant changes with the perk cards and a portion of the aid items you'll need for full effectiveness. Once again, it's a tanky, hard-hitting, in-your-fucking-face, bloodied explosive build. So no sneaking about like a little pussy. You're literally jumping around as a sword-wielding maniac, tearing through everything that dares stand in your way. And again, you will be using a lot of VATs with this build, as this is how you achieve the most devastating damage by utilising a very important legendary perk card. Sounds fun as fuck, right? So first things first, let's take a look at the gear I'm using for this build. So if you haven't gathered by now, it is a power armour build primarily, but of course you can always swap out the PA for regular armour. But one, you won't be as tanky, and two, top tier PA like mine is much easier to come by than the ideal regular set of armour you're going to need. My PA for this build is a bolstering Cavaliers T51, one of the tankiest power armours, and is perfect for a PvE melee setup. But God only wishes it was Overeaters, because you'd be a hell of a lot more tankier. But you do the job with the tools you have, right? And the mods you want for the power armour, by absolute default, emergency protocols on the chest, to reduce incoming damage by 50% at low health, and for a speed boost. The arms aren't overly important, but the only effective mod for a melee build is optimised bracers for reduced AP cost with power attacks. For the legs, my personal preference is kinetic servos to increase AP refresh while moving. So if my AP is drained from all the VATs, then it'll recharge quicker while I'm on the move, free hitting things for a few seconds. But the other option would be optimised servos for reduced AP cost with sprinting. Overdrive servos is not an option, as it doesn't stack with Speed Demon, which I discovered back when I was doing the Juggernaut build guide. And of course, the star of the show, this bad boy Shish Kebab. And to keep in character, I've added the samurai skin to give it this cool ass katana look. But it's an absolute god roll, a bloodied, swing speed, less VATs, absolute beast. The damage numbers can obviously vary depending on what buffs you run, but it is the hardest hitting bladed weapon you're going to get, and it does both ballistic and elemental fire damage, which is pretty decent. So that's the gear out the way, moving on to aid and food buffs. Now these do play a very important role in any solid melee build, especially melee bobbleheads, which I don't actually have. I've only got unarmed ones for the Juggernaut. However, they would give you a 20% damage boost straight off the blade. See what I did there? Meh. And the best food buffs is anything that increases strength and melee damage. Now, there's a few best foods that you could use. The absolute best that offer the biggest natural buffs is Deathclaw Wellington, which will give you 8 strength with stranger numbers, and Yalgwai Roast for 37% melee damage with stranger numbers. However, they are quite hard to obtain and even harder to craft as they're prepared foods. So the absolute easiest way to get the biggest buffs is by farming glowing meat and Deathclaw. You know, you can find that in abundance. Glowing meat, I always go up to Blackwater Mine, farm all the mole miners, and for a Deathclaw, I know 2 or 3 prominent Deathclaw spots, so that's easy enough to farm as well. Just bang on a bit of Butcher's Bounty and collect as much meat as possible. But on top of that, if you pop a Backwoodsman 6, you'll get the exact same buffs as you would from the premium foods. But of course, if you don't have Backwoodsman, then you'll have to make do with the base buffs of 5 strength and plus 25% melee damage with strange in numbers. And of course, the use of chems is absolutely not prohibited. So go get yourself some overdrive, cycle buff and alcohol and you'll be on to a winner. So that's the gear and aid. Let's take a look at the mutations. So straight from the top, Adrenal Reaction for damage buff at low health, Third Bones for softer landings and an AP boost, Carnivore because I'm no vegetarian and there's much tankier meat based food, Electrically Charged, not overly important, but if anything does get in my face, they're in for a shock, Grounded for tankiness against energy, Healing Factor to auto heal after I slice everything up, Marsupial so I can be a much more agile sword wielding mental case, Plague Walker to deal additional damage over time when getting up close and personal, Scaly Skin for extra tankiness against energy and ballistic, Speed Demon for a speed boost, and I also have Talons for the benefit of my Juggernaut build, but this isn't required for a melee setup. But Twisted Muscles is for a big boost to that melee damage. Now, for the icing on the cake, let's have a look at the perk card deck. So as always guys, we'll start with the legendary cards. From the top, I have 3 legendary specials, 2 at rank 2 and 1 at rank 3. And as I always advise, it doesn't particularly matter which legendary special you rank up, as long as it's not a special that we don't need or want any points in. Then we have collateral damage for a chance for enemies to explode on kill, which synergizes very well with maxed out hack and slash, which gives you a 50% chance for VATS attacks to do area explosive damage. And if these both proc together for a double explosion, that is absolutely devastating. And lastly, we've got some power armour reboot, so if we do take a serious knock, it can absolutely save our bacon with an auto revive. For the main deck itself, we have the base special points of 15 strength, which is standard for a good solid melee build, 2 perception, 10 endurance, 7 charisma, 8 intelligence, 8 agility and 11 luck. To kick things off in strength, we have Gladiator, Expert Gladiator and Mastered Gladiator. Neither are maxed out, but there's a couple of logical reasons for this. So obviously you will get a higher damage buff from all 3 at rank 2 than you would having only 2 of them maxed out, as with that you would only have a 40% buff, but with this setup you get 45%. But also I sacrifice maxing the damage cards out in favour of Pain Train, because I absolutely love Pain Train. It's not only devastating when you connect with a target, as it does damage over time, and more so with Plague Walker, but it also staggers like a motherfucker. And when you combine all of that with Hack and Slash and any other explosive legendary card, albeit Exploding Palm or Collateral Damage, it's just insane. And that is much more effective than a puny 15% of extra raw damage. Hopefully that puts that into perspective. Also in strength, 2 very fundamental cards for the build. We've got Martial Artist for the swing speed and Incisor to ignore 75% of the target's armour. Bish bash bosh. Perception, the only card you need and is absolutely necessary for any explosive melee setup like this. Grenadier, which makes all of the aforementioned even deadlier with a much bigger explosive radius. Kaboom, motherfucker. Endurance. Life Giver for a max HP boost that helps bolster that 20% nerd rage level. Fireproof. Pretty standard card for protection against fire and explosive damage, but for PvE you can probably get away with rank 1 or 2, but I'm just so used to having it maxed out. Radical for a big buff to that strength at low health, because the higher your strength, the more melee damage you inflict. And lastly, not overly required as it only works during daytime hours, but that's solar powered for even more added strength. Charisma. Party boy, so you can slug that alcohol for a good strength and damage boost. With this, you can get a minimum of 3 extra strength from any alcohol, but you can get up to a 6 buff with a whiskey. Very OP. Stranger Numbers for a boost to all your mutations, more so for the empath, scaly skin and grounded for the extra tankiness, and adrenal reaction for the extra damage at low health. I ain't even going to rewind that, fuck it. And of course, Tenderizer for a damage boost for 10 seconds after you attack. How unprofessional, I don't care, right? My channel's full of banter. Well, it's supposed to be. So yeah, we'll go with it. Intelligence, Nerd Rage, fundamental for any Bloodied build to gain all those additional buffs. And of course, sorry, I'm still laughing at that was so stupid. And of course, Demolition Expert to do even more damage with all that explosive damage. Agility. We've got Action Man. Absolutely necessary to recharge our AP quicker, since we're a Cavalier VATS build. And this is the reason we don't have Dodgy. And Adrenaline for up to a 60% damage boost on consecutive kills. And finally, Luck. Bloody Mess for that damage boost. Class Freak to reduce the debuffs from all your mutations. Starts Genes for mutation control. And lastly, Grim Reaper Sprint for a chance to recharge all action points on kill, which is a very logical card to have. I've done it again. I cannot fucking speak today. Grim Reaper Sprint is a very logical card to have in the build, but isn't overly required if you have other ways and means to recharge your AP. So ultimately, that is an optional card. Jesus, what an effort. So there we have it, guys. Another build bites the dust. This is the cool as fuck OP Bloodied SamurEye build. If you want to see a showcase of the build in action, I'll link the video to this one at the end screen so you can jump straight over and check that out. Hopefully it can inspire and you enjoyed the build. If you did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button in the top left to keep up to date with any future guides or content that I drop. But that's it from me, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Have fun, stay safe. I'm Tenacious. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.